A goal and an assist for Casemiro today, and we've seen him get a lot of goals, particularly header goals this season. He seems OP from set pieces, but it's not the goal contributions that makes Casemiro special. It's his impact on the whole team. I think he's almost as important as Bruno Fernandes to this team. Manchester United have conceded 18 goals when Casemiro's on the pitch, and Casemiro's played 1,546 minutes of football. We've also conceded 18 goals when Casemiro is off the pitch, and Casemiro has been off the pitch for 614 minutes of football. So Casemiro has spent 3 times more time on the pitch than off the pitch, but we've conceded the same amount of goals. Our goal difference with Casemiro on the pitch is plus 15. Our goal difference without Casemiro on the pitch is minus 7. And Jamie Carragher once said about Casemiro a year and a half ago, leave the football before the football leaves you. And Casemiro could have had a strop about it. Casemiro could have called him up. Casemiro could have had some public statement or any of that. Casemiro was sat on the bench as a 5 times Champions League winner while Manuel Ugarte and other players were playing ahead of him. Did Casemiro strop and do a Garnacho and demand an exit? No. That motivated Casemiro to work harder and prove everyone wrong. And that's exactly what he did, because Jamie Carragher is pretty much doing a public apology, admitting he was wrong about Casemiro. He said it's now fair to say football hasn't left him. Jamie Carragher is embracing Casemiro's redemption arc. And Jamie Carragher said on Casemiro, it's now fair to say the football hasn't left him, considering what he's producing in the Premier League. Casemiro is well within his rights if he wants to come back at me and say, leave the punditry before the punditry leaves you. First things first, fair play to Jamie Carragher. A lot of pundits wouldn't step up and own it and admit it. A lot of pundits would ignore it. We haven't heard a word from Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt on Lisandro Martinez. And by the way, Lisandro Martinez was incredible today, but we haven't heard a word from Paul Scholes or Nicky Butt on Lisandro Martinez and all of that. Jamie Carragher's come out. He spoke about Casemiro. Could he have spoken about it earlier? Of course. But he's given Casemiro his credit. And to be fair, when Jamie Carragher said, leave the football before it leaves you to Casemiro, there was a feeling at that point in time Casemiro was finished. Casemiro's first season at Man United was incredible. His second season was a huge drop-off. And I think a big part of that was because Erik ten Hag, the way he set up the midfield, he was running Casemiro out to dry. And he was dropped from that FA Cup final for Amrabat, who put in a really good performance. And it felt like Casemiro was done. He then came back, started all right at the beginning of last season. Then Ruben Amorim came in, and Casemiro and Eriksen could not get a sniff under Ruben Amorim. I remember the Newcastle game where Xerxes got booed off, but Casemiro was atrocious, and it looked like Casemiro was done under Amorim. He wasn't starting games, he wasn't getting minutes. It looked like he was finished under Amorim. He didn't have the intensity. And Casemiro, I don't know if you ever saw the before and after pictures of his shape, but he got into this immense shape. He got into the best shape of his life. And Casemiro has been incredible for about a year now. I think this time last year is when the turnaround started for Casemiro, around February. He was really key in that Europa League run. He was so key in that Lyon comeback. And for the last year, Casemiro has been incredible. One of our best players. And I think the biggest benefit for Casemiro is we play 1 game a week. And I think there was a period in December where we were playing 2 games a week, where the Christmas schedule got there, and you could see Casemiro dropped off in those games. As soon as we go back to 1 game a week, he's better, he's fresher. I think if you could give him legs that were 10 years younger, he would be incredible, because he reads the game so well. He's such an incredible player, Casemiro. And I think Casemiro is a huge example of, not everyone's finished when you think they're finished. Don't write off a 5 times Champions League winner. He could have dropped, but he had the mentality to get back, get into incredible form, and he's been benefiting from the 1 game a week. Don't get me wrong, but he's been so much better. He had that, and I think Casemiro was 55 million plus lots of wages, but I think he's kind of proving his worth, because he's the reason we got Champions League football in Ten Hag's first season, because we lost those first 2 games before Casemiro came in. And if we get Champions League this season, Casemiro will probably be the reason why. So you know what, Jamie Carragher, when he said it at the time, there was a feeling Casemiro was finished. It was a feeling that he wasn't playing great, but Jamie Carragher had it out for Casemiro from day one. He was going on a Casemiro from day one. He didn't like to give him the credit. And it was always felt there was agenda, from Carragher about Martinez and Casemiro. And look, I think Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes should probably give Lisandro Martinez apology. They won't. But you've got to give credit to Jamie Carragher for owning it, doing an apology, saying, you know what, Casemiro, fair play, because Casemiro has been one of the best midfielders in the Premier League this season. But another player I want to talk about, which I don't think Jamie Carragher necessarily wrote off, but a lot of the fan base did, a lot of rivals did, is Benjamin Sesko. Michael Carrick said this on Benjamin Sesko. I'm so pleased for him. Everyone in the changing room is delighted for him. He's been fantastic, bright in training and doing extras. A lot of one-on-ones with Travis Binnen. Ben is a big talent. Benjamin Sesko did really well for that goal. Look, Bruno did most of the work. Bruno's part to play in that Benjamin Sesko goal was incredible. Bruno Fernandes is simply an incredible world-class player. Bruno Fernandes, for me, is the best player in the Premier League. I think Declan Rice will probably win PFA Player of the Year as Arsenal walk to the title, but Bruno Fernandes has got to be a contender. And considering we're only 6 points behind City and Villa, mate, Man United potentially, race for second place if we kept winning and winning and winning. Obviously, we've got Tottenham next, and Tottenham do seem to perform better against teams like City and Manchester United. We don't have a good record against them. But Benjamin Sesko almost scored a header, did very well to get a connection on the header. He's got 4 goals in 4 games, and obviously 2 of them have been cameos off the bench. And Benjamin Sesko has impressed me lately. And here are some interesting stats on Benjamin Sesko. Sesko has more non-penalty goals than Gyökeres in the Premier League this season, despite playing 400 less minutes. So he's played 400 less minutes than Gyökeres. Gyökeres has 4 non-penalty goals. Sesko has 5 non-penalty goals in the Premier League this season, and Gyökeres is playing for a more dominant side. Sesko has already scored more Premier League goals this season than Rasmus Højlund managed last season for Man United, and he's played 14 less games so far. Rasmus Højlund, in 32 games last season, got 4 league goals for Manchester United. Benjamin Sesko, in 18 games so far, and he's not started a lot of those 18 games, has 5 league goals for Manchester United, which puts him on track at around 11 goals a season, which, I think you would like your striker to hit the 15-goal mark, but considering he's not starting many games, considering how young and raw he is, it's not bad. It's an improvement on Højlund. And, Rasmus Højlund, a lot of people were saying just 2 months ago, Sesko's worse, Sesko's a downgrade on Højlund, but I honestly believe had Sesko gone to Napoli in August and Højlund stayed at Man United, we'd be complaining about how bad Højlund is, and Sesko would be balling out at Napoli, and we'd be saying we should have got Sesko. That's my general belief. I think it's easier to play for Napoli. The Serie A is an easier league. Højlund only has 1 more goal in the Serie A than Sesko does in the Premier League this season, and Højlund's played a lot more minutes in the Serie A. Højlund has been very inconsistent for Napoli, and I'm not saying that Sesko hasn't been inconsistent for us. Sesko has been inconsistent for us, but I think, while Sesko's been inconsistent for us and Højlund's been inconsistent for us and Napoli, Højlund, when he had a bad game, he had a stinker. Sesko, when he's not scored, maybe not had his best game, he still held the ball a lot better than Højlund. He still won his duels a lot better than Højlund. Sesko, as a player, is definitely 2 years ahead of Højlund, definitely a bit more developed in his play, definitely better at holding the ball, definitely a better finisher than Højlund. I think Højlund has better strengths in terms of running the channel, and I think sometimes Højlund has a bit more energy and Sesko could be weak in that sense. But I can see an upgrade from Højlund to Sesko. It's not a huge noticeable upgrade, but I think Sesko as a player is better at the fundamentals than Højlund. And I think this talk of, Man United shouldn't have sold Højlund, we shouldn't have brought in Sesko. I mean, don't get me wrong, I said that we should prioritise a midfielder over Sesko because Mbeumo and Cunha can play centrally. And I still think we should have got a midfielder. Ineos's 4 signings, Lamont, Sesko, Cunha and Mbeumo, are looking like hits. But of course, I wish we signed a midfielder. We should have signed a midfielder. It's crazy. I mean, if Casemiro gets injured, we are not getting top 4. I've seen the Fulham game. Fulham are, 2nd in the league in the last 8 games form table. If we could beat Fulham, I think we can get top 4. I think that was a real test. But it depends on Casemiro and Bruno staying fit. And if one of them gets injured, I think we're in trouble. But I'm very happy with Sesko. I know he's not getting loads of minutes under Carrick. And, some players will struggle because we're only playing 1 game a week. But I think when we're back in Europe, and I think I'm pretty confident we get Europa League now, but I would like Champions League. But when we're back in Europe, it will be more beneficial to have 2 games a week. But listen, people, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I wanted to give a shout out to Leacher, that's got a lot of stick to play well. A shout out to Sesko, and big up Jamie Carragher for apologising with his comments about Casemiro. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.